Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app, use the promo code CHGO when you sign up. Cubs lose the opener to Willson Contreras and the Cardinals 3-1. Cody was there. He looks cold. Jared Willis is still there. He doesn't look as cold because he's got a nice warm vest. He's going to talk to us about Christopher Morel, and I believe that Ryan Herrera will join us to talk about Willson Contreras some. He was also at the ball game in just a bit. Guys, really, this is the same. There are so many storylines, right? But just from the game first, obviously it was the offense. The offense didn't score enough runs. For me, the Willson thing was overshadowed. The score was overshadowed by watching Nico Horner come up lane trying to run at third base. And, Jared, if there's a positive to this, which there isn't much of one, It's that at least Christopher Morel's already here and he's playing great, and everybody's been crying to see Christopher Morel, but this is not the way you want to see Morel getting into games.
I can go.
Sure.
Okay. I was waiting for Jared to go.
Yeah, I don't think he could hear us.
Okay. So yeah, obviously I was there, and 9 guys left on base, 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. I thought they had some chances early off Michaelis. Didn't get it done. And then you really saw if the Cardinals were playing like the team that they're supposed to be at the beginning of the game, or about at the beginning of the year, you saw the strength in their pitching is their bullpen. And yeah. So, but as far as like Nico Horner, the Cubs probably score 2. He probably scores if he doesn't get hurt on that play. That's all I could think whenever.
Yeah, then they probably still lose 3-2. But they
would have given him a lead. They would have got a
different game.
Yeah. Again, I'm not making excuses. I mean, the Cubs they got to figure out how to do this. But from a game perspective, I think the biggest thing is Horner's health, of course. I don't know who would be this next in line to even bat leadoff tomorrow. If he
Madrigal or Morel, I would guess. It's got to be. It's probably one of the two, right? I mean, Cody, the scary thing is that this team coming into tonight, the last 10 games, was hitting 175 with runners in scoring position. That's with Nico Horner in the lineup. They need to score. They need to score more runs, and they need to drive in guys when they're in scoring position. So maybe Morel helps. That obviously, losing Nico Horner's not going to help the offense.
No.
I don't know how bad it is. I've seen, non-doctors on Twitter saying, if it was a real bad grade 2 tear, he never would have made it around second base. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not good. He was limping. He didn't want to come out of the game. He was hurt, and it's definitely a hamstring. There's no way it's not a hamstring injury.
Right.
And so I don't like that.
It's definitely, and the fact that it was cold probably didn't help either.
And they played 13 straight, as Joe Girardi kept saying on the broadcast. I know you were at the game, but he was like, listen, 13 straight games. They played all day on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
It went on and on and on the game, and now he comes out. It's cold, and you can't necessarily blame that on the injury, but those are facts that they did play 13 straight games, and he did play a long game the day before. So,
yeah.
Jared, can you hear us now? I was just saying,
I've got you guys now.
This isn't the scenario you want Morel to get playing time, but thank goodness you have the depth of a guy like that sitting at AAA who was up even before the injury tonight.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that came up before the game was, okay, Morel's here, and one of the things that we know he's going to need is consistent at-bats, but obviously you don't want it to happen this way because preferably he's coming in outfield, third base a little bit, and, second base if need be. And I did ask after the game, I asked David Ross, was this a spot where you thought about Morel, or did it just not feel like the right time? And his response was, this just wasn't the moment to bring him back in. So for what it's worth. And it could be, I know he got here from Iowa today. So maybe the call was made beforehand. Like, we're just really going to try to not to use him unless we really have to, and just give him a day to get here and get reacclimated and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's frustrating because they have the depth to some degree, but you hate to see Nico, who's been such a big part of the top of that lineup, so important up there, so important on defense. It makes a huge difference when he's not there. And so, we'll see. The word from the Cubs was, we're going to see how things look in the morning tomorrow. And then, kind of go from there. So unfortunately on that front, no real updates until Tuesday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I don't really know where Morel fits in the lineup with Nico out. I don't particularly want him leading off. I think that adds on extra pressure for him, even though he's done it before. But I mean, I guess we'll see. But that's honestly one of the biggest things why I'm worried about Horner, because he was your consistent leadoff guy who's been, like I said, consistent all season. So he's kind of like the guy that they can't really afford to lose, honestly. And so I'm very worried about Horner's health. So hopefully we get good news tomorrow, like you said, Jared. But it will be the lineup will be very interesting tomorrow if Horner's out, and I assume he will be.
And what's interesting about the Morel thing too is that everybody, even on our podcast, fans, broadcasters, everybody out there, everybody wanted to see Matt Mervis get the chance, and he's had some nice at bats too. But for everybody that cried for the first month of the season that this game we would have won because Mervis was here, and then you watch yesterday, he had multiple chances to win the game, and it didn't work out for him. That's not to blame Matt Mervis for Sunday's loss, but that's just the reality. He was in the game, he could have won it, and they didn't. So now the next thing was Morel needs to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to put that same pressure on Christopher Morel either. I don't think it's fair to either guy. I just want him to come up and play good baseball. But to think that Morel and or Mervis will carry the Cubs because Horner might be out or likely will be out for a little bit, I think it's going to have to be more than just one player to pick it up. Bellinger's going to have to get hot. Dansby's going to have to get hot again. I watched the chat before, we were waiting to go on here, and it was like there were a lot of people on here, and I don't disagree. Seiya didn't have spring training, but at what point are we going to start to worry about Seiya kind of like being slow starting at the plate? Like, I think he's a guy you could definitely use more from. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, 1 for 4 tonight with a strikeout. I think in that first inning he had a big opportunity to help them score, and he didn't come through. I keep telling people to be patient because no spring training, but I'm not against moving him down the lineup at this point, just because like the offense is scuffling. To be honest, the offense isn't scuffling. It's scuffling when they have runners on base. They have been able to get guys on. They just haven't been getting them in. And I understand they weren't going to hit 353 or whatever I said a week and a half ago all year with runners in scoring position. But this team has shown that they can do it. It's just that they haven't been doing it lately, especially the last 10 games.
And
go ahead.
Yeah, and to some extent, this is the kind of thing where you're going to see a team kind of swing back and forth in this way. They're going to go through stretches where it's like they drive in every runner that gets to second base, and then some stretches like this where they keep getting them there, and then they just can't get them in. And I kind of want to go back to like what Luke said. Is we do tend to see where there's this idea that, well, when Mervis gets here or when Morel gets here, that this is going to spark plug the offense. And we know that can sometimes happen. But the reality is that they're scoring one run, not because of one spot in the lineup where they need some kind of a change. This is because there are, as like Cody, as you're kind of getting into, is there's multiple places in the lineup where they're not getting the same production the last couple of weeks that they were getting maybe those first 3.5 weeks of the season. Swanson started off as hot as he did. Bellinger has been really good, but there are still, some spots where he could have produced tonight and he didn't. And so it's, like there's high hopes for what Mervis can eventually do and what Morel can do when he does get into the lineup, which is probably going to be tomorrow. But this offense isn't struggling because they need a guy to come out there and do it. And we all know that, but it's like, it's hard not to watch what Morel and Mervis were doing in Iowa and think, oh man, if they were just up here, what a difference it would make. But as we're seeing now, it doesn't always work out that way.
I'm
Cody,
willing.
if you had to guess, if we each had to guess, who bats leadoff and who plays second base? Generally speaking, if Nico is out for any period of time with a hamstring injury, who do you think is batting leadoff and who gets most of the playing time at second base? I'm just curious where everybody thinks like Morel's playing time will come. Is it going to be Madrigal at second, or is it going to be Morel at second?
I will.
I'll
say. Thanks, Jared. I will say, as far as batting leadoff right now, if you force me to choose right now, I want Ian Happ leading off tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Now, as far as playing second, well, tell me the matchup for Patrick Wisdom tomorrow at third, and if he matches up well with tomorrow's matchup, Flaherty. I'm not necessarily sure.
Yeah.
What his arsenal is off the top of my head, but if he has that high velo, that's not a good matchup for Wisdom, in my opinion. But my point on that is I would like to see Morel at second base tomorrow, and Wisdom at third, just based on the pitching matchup. I thought Wisdom had a good game tonight. He walked twice and he got a hit, and he's been struggling. But I liked his matchup tonight against Michaelis, a guy who doesn't throw high velocity, and you saw what he can do. So I know Flaherty hasn't been very good. The velo's been down for him, so maybe Wisdom's in the lineup tomorrow. But that's kind of my thing. And vice versa, if it's a bad matchup for Wisdom, then I'd like Morel at third, and then you can start Madrigal at second in those particular.
So you're thinking more matchup based than it will be one guy's going to get the second base job if Nico is out for an extended period of time. What do you think, Jared?
Yeah, I think that's the situation that we're probably headed for at least a little while. Is you're going to go from having that consistent presence at second base in Nico Horner to now it's going to have to be a little bit of plug and play, really look at the pitching matchup and decide who is your best fit. Tomorrow, I could see Madrigal at second, Morel at third, just slide Madrigal over and put Morel in at third, or, defensively keep Madrigal where he's been and have Morel start at second. It's going to be a lot more of that kind of matchup based stuff for a while. And you cross your fingers that, as the internet doctors suggested, that the Horner stuff isn't too severe, and he's able to make a return before too long. Because I know a lot of times teams will get really, they're very cautious when it comes to this kind of thing. Like if you feel anything at all, let's get you out of there. Especially after a 14-inning game yesterday in the heat, it's somebody was bound to pull up with something. It's the way it goes. So, but tomorrow is definitely, I think, the day that you see Morel in the lineup. To me, the only question really is he at second or is he at third?
Yeah, and I wouldn't, as far as I saw in the chat, Maggie was saying Wisdom can DH. All of them could DH. Wisdom had a tough play at third today where the Cubs ended up scoring, or the Cardinals ended up scoring a run on Willson Contreras' ground ball. But generally, if I had to say who's the best third baseman out of that group, like defensively, it's Wisdom is better than Morel, and he's better than Madrigal at third base. That's just my opinion. So if Wisdom's in the game, he's at third base. That's how I would do it. Now the question becomes, well, Morel can also play second, and he could play third, but he could also play outfield. Now, you're probably not going to put Madrigal in the outfield too much. I can't decide if I want to leave Morel at one position. I'm not worried about Madrigal bouncing from some games at third because he's been okay to some games at second to even DHing sometimes if that happens. Because I think he's mentally in a place where he's been able to do that now. Like I feel like I've seen him accept that role. I think that's one thing that seemed to be hard for Christopher Morel last year. Like, don't get me wrong, he had 16 home runs and drove in 47 RBI in like 100 and a handful of games for the Cubs. I know the end wasn't great, but I do think it was difficult for him when he was struggling at the plate defensively to be bouncing around to different positions for a young player. He's a really young guy. So I don't know if coming after this great run he just had, 11 home runs in 29 games or whatever it is at Iowa, I don't know if I want him bouncing around. I don't know if I would rather just see him play second base and have Madrigal be the guy that bounces around. I know that's part of the value in Christopher Morel, that he's got all these abilities to play all these different positions, but I don't know if it's the best thing for him right now.
Well, this Horner thing might end up being, you don't want to say blessing in disguise or anything like that, but before the game today, one of the things that Ross talked about quite a bit was the fact that Morel's defensive versatility was an asset. And because one of the main questions was, okay, he's here, we want him to get consistent at bats. There's no sense in calling him up if he's only going to play every few days. So what's the path to doing that? And Ross talked about like defensive versatility. He's flexible. You can move him around a little bit. Maybe though, given the situation with Horner, at first at least, you have the opportunity to let Morel play in one spot consistently on defense, and maybe that helps him kind of get going at the plate now that he's back up in the majors and get off to a good start. So, who knows? A lot of that's going to depend on, are we talking about Horner being out for a few days or a few weeks? We'll wait and see what this thing looks like tomorrow. And that was, so much of the reason why Morel was called up and then Velasquez was sent down was because Velasquez doesn't have the same defensive flexibility that Morel does. And so here he is in the majors, but he's not getting enough at bats. We're wasting his time. Send him back to Iowa so that Nelson Velasquez can play every day. Bring Morel up here because it's easier to get Morel into the lineup because you can put him in the outfield, second base, third base, heck, even shortstop in a real pinch, I think, if you had to.
Yeah. I was going to say, to Luke's point, I actually tend to agree. I'd rather see Morel play second than I would third, just based off what I have seen from him at the major league level. But at the same time, he's more of your prototypical third baseman, at least from the production that you're going to get from him, than Nick Madrigal. So that's what's tough for me. I know he had, at least to this point, the defense hasn't been great, especially at third last year. He struggled, at just being accurate at throwing the ball across the diamond to whoever is at first base. But, that's kind of the big question. If the Cubs believe that he's gotten better at that, then and he's at third base tomorrow, then okay, then they feel good about that, and then we'll see. But I do know up the middle and on the infield last year, I always thought that was more of his he was a lot more, he looked a lot better at those positions last year than he did at third, in my opinion. So I tend to agree with Luke on that in terms of just picking a spot for him to play. It's just kind of tough because I think Brendan and Corey have said it a lot about Madrigal. It's like, you give him credit for playing a better third base than we all expected, but he just isn't your prototypical third baseman. And so it's actually better for him to play at second because that's more of his position for the type of production he's going to bring you. And that makes a little bit more sense. So, but at the same time, we've seen Madrigal go from second to third, and he's been fine at it. So I don't.
Who's got this problem? David Ross.
David
like
Ross.
the guy that we
Yes.
said in spring training will finally start to get a report card from fans. I'm sorry, a fair report card from fans and reporters
Think that'll
and
be fair?
critics out there. Like people were starting to judge him, and I think that was unfair early on because he didn't have the players. Well, now he's got some of the players, and he doesn't have the easiest decisions right now. He's got some bullpen decisions he's working through, and people are wondering, is that the right move? Pinch hitter decisions because he's got some guys on the roster maybe that are still I don't know if they should be on this roster, and now he's going to have some guys that aren't exactly your everyday third baseman, aren't exactly your everyday second baseman, and which guys will get the at-bats and which guys will play where. It's going to be real interesting if Nico's out for any serious stretch of time, what that's like. Now, hopefully this is a scenario that is limited by Nico only being out like a day or two, and it is just a strain. I just didn't like the way he reacted and kind of shouted out as he went from second to third, hobbled over. I know some people didn't think it was much and say it's not like – I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I'm not going to say it's like, some horrible injury. I have no idea. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a trainer. I'm just telling you, I don't know. I didn't like it.
We got a super chat from Fernando, our good buddy. He's at Murphy's and he can't hear us, but he says that Willson is dead to him. And listen, Fernando, you're one of my favorites. So when you come back and listen to this, just know that, man. Have a beer.
You didn't miss
Fernando. I think Willson is dead to about 30,000 people at Wrigley tonight. So you're in deep company there. And Willson, I know you guys will probably get into this later, but he's really leaned into that. So the role of the heel, I guess that's the path.
No surprise.
I can't say I'm shocked, but
he said he was going to, I guess. Before the game, he said, like, he was asked, what are you ready to be the villain? He was like, probably.
So he's, and you know what? He picked his spot because he's a big part of why they won tonight. So
he's part of every run.
He was.
Scored a run and knocked in the other two.
This was his night, I suppose. Yeah.
Jared, do you have something coming for us on Morel at ALLCHGO.com?
I sure do. You guys everybody will have to look for it first thing bright and early tomorrow morning because our very own Ryan Herrera is going to post something tonight on Willson Contreras. And so look for Ryan's stuff tonight, and then I'll have something on Morel, just kind of providing some more context on what's going on and what some of the reaction was with him being up. And we spoke to him a little bit before the game today. So I'll have that up for you guys first thing in the morning.
Sounds good. Thanks. Awesome. I know you had a long day, but let you jump off, and hopefully Ryan's able to join us before the show's over. But Jared, thanks for that. Appreciate it. The insight on Morel from the ballpark. Good stuff. And Cody,
thanks, guys.
I want you to tell me about the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program because I know you saw those beautiful lights in the outfield up close and personal tonight.
Yeah, the grass looked real nice with those lights, and ComEd has to have everything to do with that, no doubt. And maybe, perhaps, the Cubs use the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program, which is committed to helping families and businesses in the communities they serve, helping manage energy usage and lower energy bills now into the futures.
Thank you, Cody. ComEd offers a wide variety of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across the territory. ComEd also offers free facility assessments that can help find energy-saving opportunities, like for HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, or industrial processes.
Oh, how does it work, Stock?
Well, let me tell you, Cody. It's an authorized engineer that work with you to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals and needs. They can be done in person or virtually, last about 2 hours. Then within 3 to 4 weeks, customers receive a report detailing energy efficiency projects they can start working on right away. Each recommendation will include estimated energy savings, cost savings, project costs, potential incentives, and simple payback. If you own a business, don't wait. Get started saving money and energy today. For energy saving tips, lighting incentives, or to schedule your free facility assessment, go to ComEd.com/poweringbiz.
Oh, ComEd.com/poweringbiz, Luke.
That's it, Cody. Go ahead and schedule it today.
So I see everyone in the chat. Everyone's telling you, or ever, I guess Joey even too, who's our producer today, to ban me from beautiful historic Wrigley Field because they don't want to win. They don't want to win when I go. Except they did win on Saturday, and I tweeted the video. Game time forced me into the Federal Landmark on Saturday, and it worked out. The Cubs won that day, so Game Time's gonna have to keep forcing me in. Maybe that'll get the juju going.
See, your record's better when you use Game Time. When you use Corey free tickets that are just lying around, then
right. So if Game Time sends me to the Federal Landmark, then it's free game, right? Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Like I said, on Saturday, Game Time totally sent me to the Federal Landmark. I had a great time. Nice comeback on Saturday afternoon. The vibes were immaculate, and I have lots of credit to Game Time for helping me have a really good Saturday. So, again, Game Time, the cool thing about it is you can just wait until like an hour, maybe 30 minutes, hell, 15 minutes before the game starts, and you can get the cheapest tickets than any other place you can get. And that's the beauty in Game Time. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. You get images of your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. You snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Always a wild card. Barb says, get an inflatable Cody outside the ballpark like the rat at non-union jobs. That may be your best one, Barb. That might be the best one.
It really is a wild card.
I mean, we got a super chat from Ryan Downs. Thanks for the analysis, boys. $9.99. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate that. Appreciate your support. And thanks to everybody in the chat that's staying up late. We know it was a 3-1 loss. We know Nico Horner got hurt. We know people aren't excited. We know a lot of people were jumping on CHGO Sports because Connor Bedard is probably going to the Blackhawks. They lucked into the number 1 pick. So we got something good happening in Chicago tonight.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, we had 83 people still hanging with us. Appreciate that. If you are listening to this in podcast form tomorrow, thanks for doing that. Make sure you check out the YouTube page and subscribe to that. So when you get a chance to watch it on YouTube, you can join in on the live chat because it's always fun. We have characters like Barb and Craig and Gary and Rhonda. Like, we have a pretty good crowd that's always there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Joe says, Cody, I'm not asking, I'm telling you that you are banned, all caps. So
I'm 1-5, man. Like, it's
1-5.
This is
how many of those were free tickets from Corey, though?
Well, not all of them were free tickets.
The one win was Game Time. We know that.
Yeah. Not all of them, except the one win was Game Time. The others were just free tickets from season ticket holders that I know. I went yesterday. I woke up yesterday morning to free tickets in the ballpark app because I was talking to some guy at Murphy's, and he just gave me 2 free tickets after he learned that I did this podcast. And I was like, what? And I remembered when I woke up yesterday morning and was like, wow, that was a great dude. And hopefully he's listening to the show, because he said that he loves the show. So like, he realized who I was, and it was one of those moments, like one of those cool moments that I rarely have doing this. And he said he wasn't going to the game yesterday and said that he said take him. So I was like, cool. And then I remembered.
Not as nice would be Ryan Downs just offering up $1.99 now to keep you away from the ballpark.
Yeah. I mean, My birthday's on the
Party.
17th, and I always like to
Uh-oh.
go on my birthday, but I
Uh-oh.
think I ain't gonna go this year unless.
Well, that'd
No,
really ruin
I
your
don't know.
birthday if they lose on your birthday.
Yeah. Well,
But
last
it's a
year,
special day. We started Delmetrics on your birthday last year.
and Morel hit his home run that day too. So like, good things happened on my birthday last year. I don't know. It's just it was a brutal night in terms of you're going in the game with a lot of really good vibes. Honestly, you're coming to not just because Morel was back, but like I know yesterday's loss was tough, but you won the series and you felt good coming in this game with Stroh. I think it's just frustrating. Stroh's just not getting any run support, man. Like he's got an ERA near 2, and it's like I'm not gonna get mad at him for giving up 1 or 2 runs.
I believe it's less than 2 runs of support now. 7 of his 8 starts have been quality starts. It's the most in the National League. So I know you look at his record and you go, well, this guy, he's not having a great. No, he's having a really, really, really good year.
He's the new
He's
Jacob
been really.
DeGrom,
He's
man.
not the reason they lost today.
No,
absolutely not. It's just once again the offense just couldn't get enough punch, and so going into this game, everybody assumed. Well, there was the Morel news, but nobody assumed that was bigger than Willson's first game back, right? Willson Contreras in a Cardinals uniform after some of the things he has said, which I understand most of them he directed. His anger is with the front office. Okay. We understand that. His anger is with the people in the front office that said, nah, we don't want to spend 80 some $million. And we don't really want you to catch moving forward. Jan and some other guys are going to be our future at catching. We want the young pitchers. Thank you for what you've done, what you've meant to the team, but this is it. So now tonight, I think it was a 50-50, okay? I think it was a 50-50 split. And even Willson said that in pregame before the game when he was asked, how are people going to react? And he said, 50% are going to love me and 50% are going to boo. And he laughed. I think that's maybe gone at least 80-20 after tonight. Like, he leaned into, 50% is going to be happy, 50% is going to boo me. Willson Contreras on the fans reacting to him tonight. And, it's funny because before the game, he also had really nice things to say about Cubs fans. They played the video that I know you tweeted out, the video from the ballpark. Yeah. He got teary-eyed watching it. He was thankful to his teammates for applauding. I saw Stroman applauding on the mound for him. And he said, I'm always going to love Cubs fans is basically what he said before the game. But man, he heard those boos. And it was pretty. How did it sound at the ballpark? Were the boos as dominant as they sort of sounded on the broadcast? I could see people standing and applauding him. Like it wasn't a full ballpark, first of all. Like to start the game, it was kind of a sparse crowd. It
was a cold night.
It seemed like the boos were louder than the cheers to me.
After his first at bat, yeah.
Going up to bat for the first time, was it booing or cheering?
I would say it was mixed.
Okay, and then after that, it was all booing.
Yeah, after that, after his first at bat, he got thoroughly booed.
Well,
and I think a lot of it has
first base and was pumping his fist going down to first.
I think a lot of it has to do with like the way like the action he was doing on the bases and stuff. I'm like, listen, I ain't like we say, Luke. I ain't gonna tell people how to cub. Like, I just know that the more fans boo, the more it's only gonna make him want to play better. Like we saw that enough here. That's why fans in Milwaukee hated him. That's why White Sox fans hate him. And whatever. I am I don't feel any different about the Cubs letting him go. Just that because of this one game when the Cardinals are now 12-24 and they are 6-17 with him as their starting catcher, who's now after all those storylines coming out of St. Louis this past weekend, he's not going to be their starting catcher anymore. It took them 30-some games to figure out that he shouldn't be their starting catcher. The Cubs were right on this move, and that's fine. All right? Yeah, he can hit. I never said he wasn't going to hit, and he hit. He almost hit one out off Stroh. Like, I I didn't boo him. I didn't applaud or boo in the first at bat because I was recording the video. But then the second and third at bat, I didn't do anything either, just because like I personally don't I don't as much as the things that he said in the offseason, putting out that stupid Players Tribune article, like as much as all that shit pissed me off, like I'm not gonna pour gas on a fire. You know what I mean? Like it's just not me. But again, you want to boo, go ahead, man. But just know that's how Willson is. So
well, he's super emotional, and it's funny because as a Cubs fan, you can't forget the fact this guy hit a home run in Game 6 of the NLCS to send the Cubs to the World Series.
yeah.
Like, there's no denying he was a huge part of great Cubs teams, the best Cubs teams. Like he was at times the heartbeat of the Cubs, just like Joakim Noah. He was kind of that same energy guy. Javi and Willson were the same type of energy player that fans loved. It didn't end the way any of them wanted it to end. It didn't end the way Javi wanted it to end, or Rizzo, or Bryant, or Contreras. Contreras was probably the ugliest because it was drawn out the most to me. And
I guess
I know some people think he was done dirty, and maybe he was done dirty if you don't consider that it's a business. Like he was with them his whole career. If Willson didn't want $85 million, he'd still be on the Cubs because he'd be a DH on the team somewhere. That's how I feel. So I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all for wanting it. He got the Cardinals to give him over $80 million. Like, I would never, as a fan, personally, not telling you how to do it, if I were a fan, I wouldn't boo Willson Contreras because he took money and actually took it from the Cardinals. Who wouldn't take $85 million? I'd go play for the Cardinals for $85 million. I'd go play for $500,000 for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you that. But the truth is, while pretty much everything he had said to this point, I felt like this is a guy that's mad that he gave his heart and soul to an organization that gave him a shot, and he'll always be thankful for that. But he felt that they did him wrong, which I understand from his perspective, that most of the anger from him was at the Cubs. I don't think anybody else was giving him $85 million, by the way. So forget that he took that from the Cardinals. He took it from anybody that was going to give him $85 million. Maybe it was the Cardinals. Yes, it was. Yeah. But tonight, this stuff, that's going to turn off some fans. He did it every time he was on the base pass. So he can't say, I'm going to love Cubs fans forever. Sure he does. But he also likes to give it back to you, just like a little brother and a big brother go back and forth. So
yeah. That's why I've been trolling him on Twitter.
You're going to get this. I hope he's ready for it, because in the bad times, he's going to hear it good and loud now, because ask Ryan Terrio how much he's loved as a Cub fan anymore. It doesn't go over real well. And I'm not saying they meant the same thing to this organization, but Gerard, thank you for agreeing with me. I appreciate that. He specifically targeted the fans tonight after crying and get emotional and telling them, I love you. I'll always love you. I saw at least 3 different times during the game that he was egging on the fans.
Yeah.
And okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the way everybody wants it. That's the way it's going to be.
Yeah. It was, I won't lie. Like, I enjoyed like watching it like play out, just because like I just wanted to see it was like popcorn. I was like sitting there with popcorn at a movie theater almost. Of course, it wasn't for like, I didn't want to see it happen, like how it happened, but like, you know, like I knew that there will be a game or 2, maybe 3 where Contreras has good games against the Cubs. Like I'm not stupid. But yeah, I even got a little bit of that tonight. Swanson had a really nice play at shortstop to get him at first, and you know the fans gave it back to him. Like it's going to be like that for the next 5 years, whatever. My big thing with Contreras though, like him being a DH for the Cardinals every single day, until further notice at least, is awful for them. It is awful for them in terms of like blocking certain players that they have.
It's a bad signing. You can't give that much money to a guy that's just going to – if you're going to have him just DH and kind of occasionally back up catch or play outfield, it's a lot of money.
Right. And there was one particular inning where the Cardinals had a chance to add on an insurance run, and it was still 1-1 or 2-1, whatever. And instead of one of their good bats, it was their catcher. Is it Kinsler? Who came up with 2 outs. I think it was the inning that Boxberger came in. He gave up a leadoff double, and it came down to Kinsler having to come in and get the big hit. And he didn't do it. The guy's hitting below 200. He's not a good hitter. He's definitely in there for defense only. And hey, as us having to watch Gomes and Barnhart, I know Gomes he's off to a really nice start offensively. That's surprised a lot of us. But again, like that's the downfall of them DHing Willson Contreras, because they got other guys they want to play. Yeah. And so it's going to be interesting to see them manage how many games he's actually going to play, because they want to play other guys too, if they really aren't going to play him at catcher. So to me, again, they won tonight. It's one game in May. Fine. Great. Congratulations. You're still 12-24 and you still have a catching problem, bro. Like, I'm fine. I really am in terms of like where we're at right now. Now, would I be surprised the Cardinals get their shit together and finally start playing like the roster they have is supposed to play? I would not be surprised. I've had a lot of fun watching them really suck it up and look like one of the worst teams in baseball, but I would not be surprised if that roster gets it together. They're too talented to be this bad. So I'm just trying to give people in the chat, people listening, a little perspective. Like, I don't feel any different about the Cubs not having Willson Contreras. I don't think it was a mistake. I think it was the right move. And what he did tonight was not surprising, just because you knew he was gonna do something like this.
Rhonda and Vanilla Chill agree with me. I appreciate that. I just know that Cody. Let me ask you this. So again, we already had at least 25% of the fans that I would hear from would say he's dead to me, right?
Yeah.
And that was just for things he said and the Players Tribune article and all those things after, because everybody still loved Willson when they thought he was going to be traded at the trade deadline. Then it got to this point. Then he went to the Cardinals. Then he said a few things. Then he wrote some articles, which again, I'll be honest with you, I don't blame him for saying any of that stuff, because you're trying to convince a new fan base who hated you for your entire career to all of a sudden love you.
Yeah.
Okay. So he that's the route he went. But tonight, when he started egging on the fans, I'm telling you, and somebody in the chat was trying to see who it was back here. I think it was Ryan. Yeah, Ryan was talking about Dexter Fowler. Not the same. Dexter Fowler never came back with Cardinal, played for the Cardinals, and was egging on Cubs fans specifically for booze. I'm curious if when this all, let's just say this continues now, every time Willson plays the Cubs, that he feels this negativity building, and he thrives on it. He loves a little showmanship. That is he going to do this stuff, egging on the booze, just like Javi did when he went to the South Side and said, I love it. Bring it on, bring it on. If this continues for 5 more years with the Cardinals, will Willson Contreras, World Series, Willson Contreras, the guy that took him to the NLCS, got him to the World Series, will he be welcome back at Cubs convention when it's all said and done? I never thought I would think that, but I'm telling you, I can see this the way Willson is.
Yeah.
I could see this snowballing in a fashion that it's possible he's going to have plenty of money. He's not going to need to go to Cubs convention but like I could see himself actually for 5 years egging this on enough that I don't know the answer. He should be. But I wouldn't have expected him to egg on the fans tonight either.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, from the sake of my sanity, I hope tonight is the only night that he does that, or at least just this series, or maybe it's just this year. I don't know, but
See,
I do also
Chad
think
already says, "Oh yeah, no, he's good. He'd come back for." What if for 5 years he egged on Cubs fans?
I think it just depends on how good the Cardinals are over the next 5 years. I think that matters.
Guys, Bruce Sutter was a great Cubs reliever back in the day once.
Yeah.
And he went into the Hall of Fame with the Cardinals. And one of the most famous Cubs games ever is because Ryan Sandberg hit these homers off of Bruce Sutter. And nobody thinking about the great days of Bruce, except for maybe Barb. Nobody's thinking about the great days of Bruce Sutter in a Cubs uniform.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't say for 100% that Willson, when his career's over, will come back into the Cubs family and it'll be all love again.
I think if he
I
doesn't
think
win
it
a
will,
World
but
Series,
I don't.
if he doesn't win a World Series with the Cardinals, I think people will probably let it go. Time heals.
What if
Time
the Cubs
heals.
and Cards play some meaningful games down the stretch the next couple of years?
Yeah.
And Wilson's at the heart of it, and he's tearing your heart out, and he's egging on the fans.
Right.
Will you change on that?
I just I think that, again, I think that the Cardinals have a real situation. If they can't find a way to make him a better catcher, then they're in trouble, man. Because like they're not going to be able to afford to DH Contreras all the time if they want to play a lot of their other guys. Where are they going to find room for Jordan Walker, their top prospect, who's a top 5 prospect in baseball? Where are they going to find ways to play some of these other dudes? They can make a trade, okay. You want to make another dumb trade? Send in Zach Gallen and Sandy Alcantara for Marcell Ozuna like trade? You want to do another dumb trade like that again just because you can't play some of the dudes? I mean, good luck to you. I'm again, it's one game, it's one series. We're in May. Like I don't.
Hold on, Cody.
I don't.
You're gonna want to read this chat. Demetrius says, you guys talking about that 2016 World Series just like Chicago Bears 1985 talking about the past all the time. That's what Chicago lives like in the past. Demetrius, where are you from? Who are you a fan of? Are you a Cardinals fan trolling? Are you a White Sox fan trolling? It's only one of the two.
Yeah.
It's only one of the two, and just tell me when's the last time those two teams won the World Series. Get back to me, Demetrius. To take on the sun with gear built to last, our friends at Shady Rays have you covered for the warm weather ahead with premium polarized shades and an affordable price. Shady Rays, an independent sunglasses company that offers world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn. Durable frames, extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures, and that's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection program in all of eyewear. Pair of sunglasses backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they told us they'll send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after you purchase. Together with their customers, Shady Rays providing much needed support to nonprofit partners across the U.S. through Shady Rays Impact. They build play sets for pediatric cancer patients to also providing young adults with MS the outdoor adventure of a lifetime. Shady Rays is making an impact in your community and others like it now and for years to come. If you don't love your Shady Rays, you can exchange them for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. No risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. Exclusively for our listeners right now, even Demetrius, Shady Rays is giving you their best deal of the season. ShadyRays.com using the code CHGO for 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. Now, one great thing about tonight is Fubo TV. If you got it like I do, you can be watching multiple things multiple times. In fact, Cody can put it on his phone, go to the ball game, and still watch things like the draft lottery for Connor Bedard and the Blackhawks. Or maybe you want to watch the NBA playoffs. Maybe you want to watch the upcoming PGA Championship or the French Open or just Cubs baseball on marquee. Well, you can stream live TV from any device. 140 plus live channels of sports, shows, movies, and news. Start watching right away with a 7-day free trial. No contract, no cable, no hassle. Just sign up and start watching 1,000 hours of cloud DVR included at no extra charge. Watch local teams while traveling. Lots of events coming up. Like I said, PGA Championship almost here, French Open, but you can always watch the Cubs on Marquee with Fubo TV. Use the link in the description to sign up for 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro. Cut the cable cord and still watch the Cubs with Fubo TV. I think we have one Ryan Herrera from beautiful, historic Wrigley Field.
You guys,
There
you
he is.
hear me? You got me?
Yeah, we got you. And so
Man.
you've got all the juice on Willson Contreras. I'm curious what his teammates thought of everything. Well, I mean, obviously Nico's a huge storyline that we want to hear about too, but I'm curious on the Willson thing. What did they think of the egging on? What did they think of the ovation? All of it.
Well, I mean, it wasn't something that was talked about much post game. Not to put words into their mouths, but I don't think that, I don't think his teammates truly care about that. I know David Ross said something post game about like basically just didn't want to comment on it. He said something like, maybe he doesn't know different teams have different celebrations, and maybe that was toward his teammates and just didn't want to comment on it. Talking to Willson post game, it was pretty clear that it was, just trying to egg on the Cubs fan, especially the ones that were booing him, right? Like,
oh yeah,
that's kind of what Willson thrives off of, and that's what he thrived off of his whole Cubs career, was getting under people's skin and getting reactions from opposing fan bases. And he did talk about a lot, like how much he loves the Cubs fans and respects the Cubs fans, and just what they meant to him throughout his Cubs career. He talked about that a lot pregame, but it's also like he gets in the game and the opposing fans are booing him. Like he's gonna egg him on a little bit, and I don't think anyone should be just completely shocked by it. I don't know. I was amused by it, and he was smoking the ball, so if anything, he kind of deserves to do that a little bit. But I think one thing I hope comes from today's game is just like some kind of closure, I guess. Willson, pregame apologized somewhat for some of the things he said or did, to apologize to any fans who were hurt by it, because he doesn't want to upset the fan base. He loves his fan base again. So that's kind of where an apology came from. Fans that wanted to boo him were able to boo him today, and he's a Cardinal now. You can't change that. So if people can finally move on, if this helps people move on, like that's a good thing to come from it, I guess. Like I think he did some special things here and should hold a place in Cubs fans' hearts, I guess, for what he was able to accomplish here. And just let that be. But also, if you want to boo him because he's a Cardinal, like boo him because he's a Cardinal. I think it can all be in good fun to not like Willson now because he's a Cardinal, but to appreciate what he did in Chicago.
I hope it is good. It's certainly not a life or death or really serious topic. I think it's sort of funny that Willson goes on this roller coaster of emotions, right? Like you said, he actually took the time to apologize and say, I'm sorry if I upset anybody. I didn't mean to say it, But a lot of people didn't hear it. So because it was right before the game, so they did boo him. And then his reaction to the booing was not to just let him boo and say, well, they'll hear my reaction after the game. It was exactly the opposite. And to go right back after him, not once, not twice, but 3 different times. So I don't know. It was kind of fun. What do we have on Nico? He's getting an MRI. Is that right?
I mean, that's a question that Jerry. I was in the Cardinals clubhouse talking to.
It sounds like an MRI. It's just from
hearing what's come out of the Cubs post game, they're gonna evaluate him and see how he feels. If they're gonna get him an MRI, they're gonna get him an MRI. He came around second and maybe like a quarter of the way, third of the way down the line is when he kind of pulled up. And, I don't know, like, trying to remember the play in my head. I don't know that he scores had he not pulled up from where he was at, but you could tell like he was very slow to get to third base on a double. So it's concerning for sure. But we won't know any, we don't really have an update for that until the morning or till tomorrow afternoon when we get here.
So you're going to be writing about the Willson thing. I want to ask you just an opinion, just like Cody, where do you think this plays out? How does it play out the next 5 years with him on the Cardinals? How do you think it goes down? Do you think the intensity of booing and egging each other on will continue, or will it die down after just one game and just go back to being like anybody else? Because it's not, we haven't seen Javi have the opportunity, and Javi didn't leave the same way and say things that Willson did, right? Like Wilson's was a more bitter departure than Javi's was, for sure.
Yeah, well, like I said, I hope that people that were angry at Willson can find a little bit of way to move on after this. As far as how the next 5 years go, I can imagine like he's the guy that left and went to the Cardinals, right? Like I can imagine people continuing to boo him again, in good fun, I think. But like I can still picture him being that villain role and playing that villain role for the Cardinals because that's who he is. He's the guy that's going to get under other teams' skin. And I think you'll see Cubs fans boo him when he's here, especially when he does well, like he did today. And I think if he hears boos, like he'll welcome them because that's just who Willson is. And he's on a different team now. He's gonna. I think he's fine if people boo him in Chicago because he's on a different team now.
I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I really am. I'm looking forward to his at bats just to see what happens because I think it's fun drama, one way or another. No.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's. I think one it's of those. Good. I was waiting for Cody to chime in. I haven't gotten to hear from him today and hear his thoughts. But Cody was here. Cody saw live, but he saw live the fan reaction, right? And maybe it was just one day, and maybe he'll get, I don't know, all cheers tomorrow. Like I'm not going to predict the future, but like there could be some boos, and I think it'll be fine.
I really do think it was very mixed in the first one, but then it was a lot of boos after that, and. Today I went with our social media director, Casey, and walked around the ballpark for a video that we're making and talked to fans, just asking them questions about Willson Contreras. Like, what would you say to him if you had the chance to talk to him? Or is he dead to you, or is he a Cub for life? And it was a lot of mix. There were people that were like, oh, I was at his first game where he hit the home run on Father's Day. And like, I can't ever not love that guy. And then there were other people who were like, that guy thought about putting on a Cardinals uniform before, even being done with the Cubs.
And this was before his first at bat, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This was before he had egged on the fan.
I did this pregame. Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine what it'd be tomorrow.
I think the mix of boos and cheers. I think it'll be again tomorrow in the first at bat, and then you'll probably get boos after that. I think at least for this first series, it'll be a lot of what we saw today.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I can imagine he's the villain on the Cardinals now, right? Like he's gonna get booed by the Cubs fans. Like that's how it goes. This is Cubs fans booed Yadier Molina for years, or Pujols, whatever. Like they're gonna boo Willson Contreras, even though he's a former Cub, because he's the villain now. So they're gonna boo him, and I think he's okay with that. I think he's okay that knowing that. I think he's okay as long as Cubs fans understand like what he means to them or what they mean to him. I think he's okay if they boo him.
Yeah. All I know is the Cardinals are 12-24 and they got a serious catching problem. Boom, roasted.
Well, there you go.
Ryan's going to have a lot on Willson Contreras' return at allchgo.com. That'll be coming up tonight. We still quickly have who you got. I do want to sit down tomorrow and figure out who won these last games that we've been picking on. Like we have some that are up in the air, but I got everything written down. What day, what stats guys had. Tonight, I'm trying to think who everybody had. I believe I had Hap.
I had Bellinger.
I took Mervis, and he just walked.
And Corey had Nico.
Yes.
Corey had Nico. All right.
I would say it's either Hap or Bellinger.
And we had one, right? 1 for 4, Cody Bellinger.
Hap got a walk.
I was Hap, 1 for 3 with a walk.
I think they both got their hits in the first inning. And then
I did reach base one extra time. I did reach base extra time, but my guy also struck out one extra time. But the walk, I would say the walk, being on base twice, probably.
I would say walking instead of putting the ball in play with a man on second and third could be a strike against.
Bellinger would have got a sack fly if he just would have hit it a little bit farther, or maybe if it wasn't magical on third base.
He ate another Cheerio for breakfast.
Again, from my vantage point, I don't know that Nico makes it home on that one really. Like Madrigal got thrown out by a pretty good amount, and I don't know that Nico makes up for it. But maybe if Bellinger hit it like 100 feet further, like he would have got Madrigal in, or I don't know.
We haven't talked about it, but I'm not mad about the send, just considering how the game was going. I guess if I'm annoyed or I'm bothered, it's just the fact that I think Nico would have scored if he just didn't get hurt round in second.
You mean he would have scored on that play had he not?
Yeah, because that ball bounced really far away from the left fielder Donovan. And he was halfway around second on his way to third, and he wasn't even to the ball yet. I think Horner scores on that ball, in my opinion. Of course, we're never going to know, but I'm just saying that was just a tough moment of tough luck, I guess you could call it, with Horner getting hurt, and it worked in the Cardinals' favor. So that kind of ended up being that kind of really killed any momentum they had in that game. They didn't really do much of anything on offense after that.
They just had opportunities. It was just like Sunday. Vanilla Chill says Belly didn't cash in with the bases loaded. Goes to Hap. I mean, I had Hap.
We'll give it to Hap. It's fine. We'll give it to Hap.
Did Joey take Amaya? He didn't do anything either. Or I guess Barnhart walked.
Joey goes to 0-3. He did take Amaya.
Did he? Still winless on the year, Joe. You'll get them.
Hey, Amaya, I was really impressed with Amaya's at bat against Helsley, even though he didn't do anything. It was a really long at bat, and he had 8 or 9 pitches, and a guy who's coming from Double-A and going up against an all-star reliever like that.
Yeah.
You got in games like this, you take any positive or silver lining from anything.
Especially when it's a rookie, right?
Yeah,
not even a full week.
Specifically for him, yeah. Going into that bat, he had 8 major league at bats, and he went up against one of the best relievers in the game and battled. I was impressed with that. I don't know. I know a lot of people were talking about Amaya and is he going to go back to Double-A or probably Triple-A when Gomes is ready? I lean yes, but he has impressed me, and I really love the quote that Wisniewski said about Gomes over the week, or not Gomes, Amaya over the weekend. It's going to be interesting to see what they do, because he hasn't done anything to, I guess, say that or show that he needs to go back down, because he just, you can see why he was once a top 100 prospect in baseball.
Joe Girardi said nice things about his pitch framing and all those things on the broadcast too. So from a former catcher, former manager, not just a pitcher, but a lot of people saying good things about Miguel Amaya so far. All right, we are back for post game tomorrow, Barb. We will be live after the game. We'll try to be on right after the game, as soon as the game is over. Again, Ryan's got an article coming out tonight on Willson Contreras. Jared's got one coming out in the morning on Christopher Morel. Cubs will try and even up the series against the Cards tomorrow. We'll be here for post-game. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app. Use the promo code CHGO when you sign up. And until tomorrow, well, you can fly the W. They didn't win, but we'll still fly the W, and we'll see you tomorrow.